Are we live? Can we see it? Hey, we're live. How is everybody? This is our first live podcast of the Godlogic project with actual guests in an actual studio with actual air condition. I'm thrilled to be here. So let me start by reading my script since I really don't know what I'm doing. Let me start by getting rid of whatever that phone sound is. Oh, the bill collector left me a voicemail. That's what that phone sound is. All right, are we done fooling around? We're done fooling around. I'm the only one on camera so far, so you don't even know who's in the studio, except that I already announced it. All right, well, anyway, let me read my little script here. I'm not a seasoned veteran, so we're going to be stumbling over. I'm going to be stumbling over myself, I'm sure, here for a while. But we got some really good content for you guys, recovery within the Tampa Bay area. But let's start with this. Hello, God bless and welcome. Thank you for watching or listening to the Godlogic Project, where we discuss maintaining a Christian worldview in a post-Christian America. Today's episode is our first official live episode. We're talking recovery, specifically multiple pathway recovery. So we're going to be discussing both secular and faith-based services that are available to addicts, alcoholics, anyone struggling really with debilitating obsessions, recurring compulsions in their life. So if you already subscribe to the Godlogic Project, you know that's a big theme for us here. First, you can support the Godlogic Project by doing a few easy things for me. Please subscribe and ring the alert bell here on YouTube. Please like, share, and comment any Godlogic Project social media content you see. And if you're shopping on Amazon anyway, maybe you buy supplies for a business or a ministry particularly, please remember to click through the godlogicproject.com, click the Amazon logo, and shop as usual. When you do, Amazon will donate a percentage of your purchase to the Godlogic Project. Okay, that's my short script. Now we do our intro. Hello, God bless and welcome. I'm Kevin Haggerty, and this is the Godlogic. How are you guys not dancing?
Shut up, Kevin.
Shut up, Kevin. You're going to hear that a lot. Shut up, Kevin is the theme of the podcast today. I have in studio today Cesar Rodriguez and Rachel Stardison.
Yes, very good.
No way, that's right?
That's awesome.
I just said it the first time, and I won't be able to say it a second time. So for now, moving forward, you're Rachel.
That'll work.
Because I will not be able to do that again. And Cesar Rodriguez, that's really...
It's easy.
Yeah, it's boring almost. It's almost bordering on boring.
My middle name is Augustus, if that spices it up.
Oh, Augustus Caesar. Too bad that wasn't your first name. So, you know, the Bible says we have to render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. So, do you have your impression on a coin?
I don't.
Oh, you should.
And I don't think I'm worthy.
Whose image is on that coin? Caesar Augustus. All right, let's stop fooling around. We have here representatives of the Tampa Bay recovery community. They do a lot of work. We've known each other for a while now. We're really not super well, but we all three of us, you guys particularly know each other. But I'm really getting to know you here recently. It's an honor. It's a privilege to have you guys on the podcast. I know you do a lot of work in the recovery community. We all three have a background in that. So this seems like a logical first podcast for the Godlogic Project, which is to say recovery is a big part of my story, so it's going to be a big part of the Godlogic Project. We specifically talk about Christianity in a post-Christian America, and we're going to talk politics and anything anybody wants to talk about. If they can have a civil discourse, they're welcome to do it here. You can be of any ilk or understanding and have a seat at this table. That's our policy or my policy for the podcast. But recovery is going to be a big part of that. So what I'd like to do first is go to one of you guys. Who would like to go first and just kind of give us background on yourself and kind of a quick bio on what you do?
I guess she's looking at me, so I guess that's me. Cesar Rodriguez. I'm a recovery advocate. I'm in recovery. I'll be celebrating 5 years this month, which I'm extremely excited about. 5 years of nothing but blessings. Mm-hmm. I serve on ASAP, which is the Alliance for Substance Abuse Prevention here in Pasco County. I serve on the recovery committee. So we have an entire committee dedicated to people in recovery to serve this area and really address roadblocks in recovery. Things like safe housing, things like jobs, things that I struggled with in the beginning that we all did, we try to focus on doing things like that. We do all kinds of events. Um, I won't give you the whole burrito right now because I get to talk more about it later. But it's been a blessing since I found recovery. I've been able to do so much in the community, and anybody can do a ton in the community. You just
Yeah.
have to ask somebody, hey, where do you need me? And hey, we will put you to work.
The harvest is definitely plenty. The workers are few, that's for sure.
Exactly.
So especially here in Pasco County, West Pasco County, where we are right now in the holiday area, but the opioid epidemic, substance abuse period in this part of Pasco County, and or in this part of Florida, is truly epidemic here. So the work that you guys do and the work that we try to do together is life saving. So it's not just a matter of feeling good about yourself or having a hobby, or it's about making a difference. And that's what I know you guys do. I've been familiar with your services for years now. We've done events together, me kind of in the background, but it's been it's very important that the things that we were lacking. So when we welcome somebody into recovery and we bring them into recovery and we begin to lead them through the recovery process, the things you're talking about, housing, car, cell phone, just having a cell phone's a big deal. So there's a lot of things that maybe the rooms of the 12 steps don't provide that some outside services like y'all have could provide. Is that true?
Well, this also gives us a platform that there's so much stigma around addiction and alcoholism that there's really no place that somebody can look for examples outside of a 12-step program where they can say, okay, well, this guy got sober. This guy came from here and went to there. So I'm willing to put my recovery out there and share it on a platform like this, anywhere that anybody will have me, so that they can get a chance to see that recovery is possible. Because if I'm not sharing my story with people, I'm not really giving hope to people.
Right.
So I keep my anonymity where I need to keep it, which is I don't say where I am with my fellowship or anything like that, but I try to be an example and say, look, this is where I came from. This is what I've been through. It is possible. It doesn't matter if you're in your 30s, 40s, 20s. It's possible. There's hope. And, if I can even reach one person and they can say, oh, man, if that bozo can do it, then I can probably do it. Then I've done my job.
And your anonymity, which is important, is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. So you are responsible to extend the hand. Well, if nobody knows your story, nobody's going to come to you extend that hand in the first place. So it's a fine line between maintaining anonymity and not mentioning specific programs. Certainly, this is now media, right? But at the same time, I've never kept my story really quiet. Now, I don't put it on a job application, right? So it's not a matter of I lead with it, but everybody knows about me, right? You don't have to know me very long to know my story, and it's made a difference. So people call me from all over the state, sometimes from other states, just to ask what to do.
It breaks down that barrier where you are approachable, because if I don't share this with people, I'm just a guy with a good job and a car with a wife, and what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. But if you have the background of where I came from,
yeah,
then people will go, okay, well, maybe I want to go ask that guy how he did that.
And what you didn't have, right? So that's that could be the tiebreaker. So we have all three been where they are, right? So it's not a matter of we learned this at a seminar. We didn't learn this in college, right? We learned this the hard way. We learned this in smoke-filled rooms, right?
Absolutely.
Back in the day, smoke-filled rooms. So this is how
your age.
yeah, this is how recovery is done. So it's and I think that's a big deal. How about you, Rach? What's going on with you? I had to fix your microphone because you're so short. First of all, and I had to put a board, a milk crate under her feet so they'd reach the floor. We have 3 cushions under her seat so she could be even on camera.
Her feet still aren't touching.
Yeah. And then I had to adjust her microphone so we could actually see her because she was literally hidden behind her microphone. How are you, Rach? Now that I've
I'm
embarrassed you, how
amazing.
are you? Tell me a little bit about
Amazing.
yourself. Tell the viewing audience about yourself.
My name is Rachel. I am in recovery, grateful to be in recovery today. What's really awesome is I have the privilege to serve in the same community that I caused so much destruction in. A lot of people have geographical locations, but this 5 mile area is where I had my whole career of other things. Um, One thing I'm really proud of today is to be able to help other parents. I was a negligent parent. My children are old enough to remember all the things that I put them through. I think when people get into recovery, the things that kids have been through kind of get put by the wayside. Like, we get better and everybody's happy for us, but all that damage isn't done. So today I get to talk about that and say all the therapy in the world doesn't take that away. So I get to make those living amends to my kids and talk with other women who have lost their kids. I lost my kids, and I have earned the right to be their mother again, and they live in my home, and we've healed those relationships, and it is possible. But that seemed so hopeless in the beginning of recovery. So it's just an honor to be able to share that with other women and men.
And we have the opportunity to hear some tremendous stories. So mine, everybody thinks that their story is the worst. So the mountain that they have in front of them is going to be the hardest to climb. But when you've been around the rooms a little bit, been around recovery a little bit, you begin to realize there's nothing special about you. So a good example of that would be I was at a local clubhouse and somebody was missing. So I said, "Where is he?" Guy across the room said he passed away. And so I said, "Well, what did he pass away from?" Another guy yells out, "Terminal uniqueness." So he thought he was so special that there was something unique about him compared to every other run-of-the-mill alcoholic in that case. And he went back out and he died. So it's heartbreaking, and it's the idea that that there is a better life, right? To me, there is a Christ-centered life. My story is I'm a pastor, so my story is a Christian story. Lately, the last 8 years, but I've been sober 30 years. But God is a big part of that, and we talked a little bit about it before the show started. But idolatry, I think, self-centeredness certainly is what sinks us.
No, I agree 100%. When I'm working a good program, that means I'm not thinking about myself.
Exactly.
My thoughts and my actions are to help somebody else. And when I stay outside of myself, I'm truly doing God's work. I know what I have to do. When the opportunities are put in my path, I'm able to see them and take them.
Right.
Where when I'm full of myself and all I'm thinking about is myself, the opportunities, I walk right past them because I'm too caught up in my own resentments or my own little problems, ideas, and stuff. So opportunities like what we have, working with these committees, working with the RCO, are ways to give back on a level we've never been able to give back before. We're able to help a whole county. We're able to help hundreds of people instead of one-to-one. Basic at its base, I'm still a one-to-one. I'm going to try to show you how I got sober and show you the path and walk you on it. But outside of that, any opportunity that I have where I can be on a platform like this and give hope to hundreds, maybe thousands, that, hey, if a guy from Tampa that was lost completely, heroin addict, alcoholic, everything that you can imagine, has found recovery and can turn his life around and help the community, then anybody can.
Yeah.
I'm not special. The only special thing about me is I found it, and it's available to anybody.
And well, that brings up another topic or another question. Why do so few take this solution that we offer, and then why do so few stick with it?
I think that would be a good segue into Rachel, because I know the way that I was shown, and my eyes have been opened up that recovery is not a one-size-fits-all thing. People can get sober through church. People can get sober through one of the 12-step fellowships. People can get sober multiple ways, and that's going to segue into Rachel, who's working on this RCO for our area, which is also going to include multiple pathways. So nobody is excluded. And it took a little while for me to open my mind up to this multiple pathways thing, but anything that's going to reduce the amount of relapses and the amount of people suffering,
Exactly.
on some level is better than doing nothing. Saying these are your two options, and if you don't like them, go die in the streets. And that's just not an option. So anything that's going to help the community. So Rachel, would you like to tell us more about this?
Good
I
job.
absolutely
What's an
would.
RCO?
Okay.
And first of all, how do you spell RCO? Wait, that was the wrong button. That was the wrong button, too. All right. How do you spell RCO, first of all?
RCO.
Okay, we're making progress. What does it stand for?
Recovery Community Organization.
Interesting. So what is it? What do you do with the RCO? What does an RCO do for the community and the addict?
Okay, what an RCO does. We are building as a community collaboration here. Sometimes, us three could go and build something in 3 days, but that doesn't necessarily have the community buy-in that we're looking for. We want community input. If you want to help a community, you have to find what's on their heart and what they feel their needs are. So we're in the process of doing that. We had a listening session. We're listening to what the community and all the partners coming together. What recovery looks like for you might not be what recovery looks like for somebody else or what recovery looks like to me. But all of it is important.
Right. So the key is the recovery part.
Yes. So we're going to identify as a community, as a whole, what we do really well here. We have some great resources in Pasco, but we have some things that we could do better as well. And then we also have some gaps where we're losing people. We're not being of service to them like we could. So we need to identify those gaps. And as we develop new resources, we need to allocate those resources to our gaps. The idea, everybody doesn't necessarily need inpatient treatment, but everybody needs a continuum of care. Everybody needs support. So we want to be able to support people in recovery at all levels of recovery, to get in recovery, and most important, to stay in recovery. We do really well sometimes with that short-term recovery, but how do we help people overcome those obstacles to stay in long-term recovery?
So I'll play devil's advocate for a second and tell you that I find that newcomers, people new in recovery, have a overinflated sense of entitlement, right? So they enjoy the first 60 days or 90 days of recovery, and then they kind of fall off. That we need to be very careful. What I would say is we need to be very careful not to try to do it for them. That we give them, that we steer them towards resources, but they've got to do it themselves. Does that make sense to everyone? That's old school, but that's how I was brought up in it, and that's what I think we got to be very careful not to make that mistake.
I went to the CCAR recovery coach training that Rachel had already done, and one of the terms they throw around a lot is resource broker. It's not your job to hold somebody's hand. It's your job to put them to the resources and let them use those resources. So you got to stand for yourself, and you got to go out there and take advantage of the things that are offered to you. And I like what you said, in that first 60 days, we do. We walk them hand in hand. And then the ones that you do lose are because, it's time for them to leave the nest and do for themselves, practice the principles, whatever it may be in the program that you're in. But there comes a point where all the action lands in your own lap and you're not being walked anymore. And that's a decision for every person. This is an amazing opportunity to find out what the gaps are in our community. Where are we missing things? And you bring an entire community in and ask for their input, they're going to give it to you. They're going to say, hey, we don't have this, we don't have this. And then you have something to build on, because if you don't know what the gaps are and you're not engaging the community, then how can we support that?
So there lies in the importance of organizing, of getting these voices assembled at the symposiums and the things that you guys do publicly, which is powerful because the media covers it. It gets out there, it removes the stigma of addiction, and hopefully people begin to get this message too through podcasts like the Godlogic Project and other ways. But the question becomes, once we identify the needs, who do you guys partner with now? I mean, who are we? I know you work closely with local law enforcement and local faith-based communities like myself, like the Godlogic Project or my church. But who else is available? What kind of resources can we really offer these folks?
Well, we're working on grants at the moment, which is awesome. I wanted to mention before we go into that this is all peer-led. This isn't a clinical-based program. So when you come in, or somebody who's providing services or helping you with resources, has been through the same things you have. There's something magical that happens when one peer identifies with another peer. And so a lot of that stigma is broken down. I also think that an important part of this is like in our own recovery community to break some of that stigma. Some of the biggest stigma I see is in the recovery community itself. My recovery doesn't look like your recovery, so is your recovery actually recovery?
Right.
So we need some acceptance in our own community, and this helps with that as well. We plan on partnering, and we're working to build partnerships with healthcare administrations, hospitals, law enforcement, even local businesses. This crisis we have affects everybody. If you are a business owner and you try to insure your employees, your insurance is higher because we have a crisis with opiates and our hospitalizations and everything. So we want to encourage the community to understand how it could benefit them to support this.
So this can be an investment for local businesses, especially here in Holiday, where you're not only removing the threat of loss, right, either through theft or insurance claims and things like that, but then we are then turning out an employable man or woman. So we are not just taking away the unemployable, but through something like an RCO, we can begin then to make them employable, make them contributors to a business, contributors to the community, and importantly, and we talked about this before the show started, contributing to the recovery process as well, right? So they can then be leaders like yourselves once they've done what it takes to get what, if you want what I have, you got to do what I do. That goes for them too. But eventually, they could be sitting here with a new idea and a new way, a new approach, and or a way to put together a conglomeration of recovery.
Well, you think about the tax burden that the opiate crisis alone has put on our county, on our country, you name it. So when you start offering a solution and less people are overdosing, you start offering a solution that makes them employable, like you said, and putting productive members into society that in turn come back and give back to the same community that helped them out, that it's a grassroots movement that just makes sense. How do you get a community better from the inside out?
Right.
We have to get these members of our community, our county, healthy. And it starts at the base level of one-to-one. Let's find out, what do we need? What are we missing? How can we help? If we don't ask these questions, then we don't know. We can't focus on answers if we don't even know the questions.
And the literature, recovery literature, tells us we're uniquely qualified to help when no one else can. So I know when I first came into recovery, if it was lab coats and ink blots, I would have grabbed a cup of coffee and headed back out the door. But it was people, just men and women, just like me, with the very same problems that I was dealing with as a younger, they were older than me, but that's what made me stay, was the fellowship. What made me stay was that they were telling me not something they read about or learned in a weekend seminar. They were telling me something they'd been through. And that's what makes this different, right?
I'll say one more thing. You're a plumber. You have a background in plumbing. If I got a plumbing problem, I'm not going to call the drywall guy.
Right.
And if you've got a problem with addiction or alcoholism, who better to show you than somebody that's been there and has the experience, been where you've been, walked in your shoes and found the way out.
Right.
So, it just...
If you wanted to,
peer.
if I needed to, and I actually need to get my credit back in order after my injury, would I go to somebody that's never had bad credit, that's never been through the process of rebuilding their credit, or would I go to somebody that's never had bad credit in the first place? Well, I got to tell you, I would have more faith in the person that's been through something, lost everything, and built it back up than somebody that's never had lost anything in their lives like that financially, So that makes that's, to your point, makes a very big difference, I think. It made a difference to me. And would you say that made a difference to you?
Absolutely. I think once you take away the drugs and alcohol, recovery is so much more to me than that. It's finding your purpose and then tapping into that inner boldness to step out in that purpose. And I love when you see people in recovery when they discover it. You see the spark come back and they're like happy to be alive, but they realize no matter what contribution, no matter how small, law enforcement agency to help them figure out
There are resources available. We are in the recovery community approachable, that we are humble servants, right? That we are not,
Absolutely.
that no one is, I may be 30 years away from my last drink, but I'm an arm's length away from my next drink like anyone else. So when I leave, I tell this to the gentleman I preach to in jail once a week. When I leave Land O'Lakes jail, it's 45 minutes from here at least. How many 7-Elevens, convenience stores, liquor stores, or bars am I going to pass on the way back to Holiday, especially once you get to Holiday? So um, I am that close to my next drink, right? It doesn't matter how far you are from your last one. So we need to remain humble, teachable, and approachable. So people come to people like us, I think, for answers because we're approachable. So if, as a pastor, I tend to be an approachable pastor. I'm still, for a lot of people, Kevin the plumber. So they still, they know me, right? So they know they can talk to me. They know that I believe what I believe, that I'm not making something up, that what I believe and what I teach and what we teach in recovery is what we've done and what we've been through ourselves. So the idea, if I had a leisure suit and a velvet Bible, right, and gold teeth, it would be hard to get anybody to approach. It would be hard to have the conversation in the first place.
You touched on it when we had a conversation before we started. There's no graduate level of recovery. There's no next level of anything. It's the things that got me sober in the first 30 days are the things that keep me sober today at almost 5 years, at 30 years for you, and it's basic, those are the tools I have to help somebody else. They didn't get any more higher education as far as what I needed to do. I need to do the simple things that I do every day, and that's what I pass on to somebody else because I'm not the brightest guy. I need very simple instructions to be able to stay sober, and if they're simple and somebody shows me how to do them, then I can do that and I can pass that on to somebody else. And I have to stay willing to continue to pass that on to the next person and the next person.
And in the rooms, in the 12-step rooms, whatever 12-step program that is, they pass around a phone number list, right? So there may be 20 men in a meeting. You get 10 phone numbers on a list. That's not 10 that don't want you to call but felt guilty. That's 10 that are ready to serve,
Yes.
right? And pick up that phone and make the first move. People in the rooms aren't mind readers. We don't know what you need and what your wants are, where you're at until you tell us. So you got to kind of tell on yourself, and it's grown up in public.
Absolutely.
But if you receive a phone number list at a meeting, those numbers aren't there by accident, right? They put there
willingly were put there
because
and
they want you to call.
Me.
Yes, so that is key. Now we are. I'm going to switch camera angles to you guys, so you can talk about. I don't know. The Lightning are in the playoffs, right? They just tied the record for the winningest season in the history of NHL. So.
Are you up on all this, Rachel? Do you know that?
No, not
you know
even
the Lightning?
What do you want to talk about?
Can I take a
Game of
second
Thrones?
and give the rest to you?
Absolutely.
I just want to tell you kind of what the recovery committee under ASAP has been up to. We are last year for Emergency Responder Month, First Responder Month, and Nurse Appreciation Month. We did banners that went all around the recovery community thanking EMS, nurses, first responders for saving our lives. Banners were beautiful. They said, "Thank you for saving our lives from Pasco residents in recovery." And we took them to anywhere, 12-step clubhouses all around, and let everybody sign them, write a personal note, and then we brought them to Trinity Hospital, North Bay Hospital, and Pasco Fire and Rescue right down the street from us here in Holiday, and let people in recovery actually give these banners to the people that are on the front lines dealing with people like how I was, people that were overdosing, people that were a constant blight that they had to deal with day in and day out, thanking them for everything they do, and then showing them what their work has done in our lives. Thank you for saving my life. I found recovery. Here I am. We get to show them that their hard work is not, it's appreciated. And we're doing the same thing this year. We're going to pass them out get everybody in the recovery community to sign these things, and they're still hanging up from last year in the hospitals and at the fire stations. They love them. They won't take them down. They've never had people in recovery come and show them and tell them how much they're appreciated, because I was brought back with Narcan 5 times. You know, I was a hopeless case. These people see me come in and they're like, oh man, not you again. Well, now I get to go and thank them and show them that I found recovery. And we're doing the same thing with the nurses, except they're going to be individual letters and notes where people in recovery are going to sign them and thank them, and they get all passed out. So it's a great opportunity to bridge that gap between the people that serve us and the people that receive the services, to show them that we do recover.
I would love the opportunity to hear from somebody in the first responder community how important something like that would be to them, because I know that would be important to me, right? So sometimes we talked about it. We don't always know what fruit we bear ever, right? And that maybe sometimes we get to feel like what we do isn't making a difference. And these folks see it, if you think we see it a lot, they see it for a 12-hour shift every night, especially in this area.
Some of them teared up. I mean, it was impactful, and they asked us to please come back, you know, and it's to be welcomed that way when we were the problem. it's amazing, you know, and we thank them from the bottom of our hearts, and it's a voluntary thing. We bring them around if people want to sign them, but we end up running out of signature space on them.
Right,
so many people actually want to thank them for what they do.
And I'd say the opiate epidemic now is 10 times worse than crack from what I recall, in crack in the recovery community 10, 20 years ago. It's still an issue now, but things are different now.
Dying, so
yeah, things are different now.
We've never seen before.
And the recovery percentages I don't think are as good. I mean, they just, from my personal experience, there's something missing. Of course, I say that's a relationship with their creator. I think God loves them so much, he doesn't want this for them, but he'll let them choose it. Anyway, we have on the line, if I'm doing this correctly, a very...
You are.
Hey, you're not allowed to talk till the host introduces you.
Sorry.
Kelly!
All right, let's take this from the top. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from somewhere in Tampa Bay, Kelly Rodriguez now. Kelly, did you hear the crowd go crazy?
I did, and I can see you guys on your YouTube channel. You guys are doing awesome. You got an elaborate setup there, Kevin.
I know. This is my retirement plan. So
I love it.
when I became disabled, it was a matter of being disabled or finding something else that to fill my time with and another way to serve. So I love it. And thank you for joining us here on the Godlogic project, Kelly.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Now, I understand that you had a big day a month ago. Is that true?
I did. My name officially changed from Walker to Rodriguez.
Holy cow. Well, you got quite a catch there. Cesar is the husband, or what we would call the assistant, I think, to Kelly. Is that true?
That's correct. I'm the assistant.
No. He's becoming better at this stuff than I am. I don't even know why I have to call in. He did such a good job.
He nailed it, didn't he? Well, it turns out it's not his first podcast either.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not even close.
He's starting to get
It's funny because I started off dragging Cesar to these things with me, and now he's the one who takes over and commands the room, and I bring him with me to everywhere, and people know him.
I almost had to mute his mic. And then Kelly, you should know that if you use any curse words, I'm going to be bleeping you out like that, because this is a Christian podcast, and I know you used to be a plumber, so your language leaves a little to be desired. Is that true?
Be careful.
Not at all. Not at all. I can be respectful. No worries.
Well, tell us about yourself, Kel, and what's going on with the upcoming conference.
So, I mean, you want to know about myself? I'm a person in long-term recovery as well. I'll have 4 years coming up this May, and so it was my first year in recovery, and I was really looking. I've always been a social worker, and I've always worked in that field, and I took a little bit of a break from it when I first got sober. And when I went back, I knew that, I think it was always, I wanted to help people, but I didn't really know how to help. And I think it wasn't until I faced some of those demons that I had myself before I found my calling, and really my forte in where to help people. And I've been a part of this amazing coalition ever since Pasco ASAP, Alliance for Substance Abuse Prevention. And Cesar and Rachel were talking about our recovery committee that we have with Pasco ASAP. So ASAP is a community coalition. We have community partners from all different areas, and we work together to reduce countywide risk factors for addiction in the county. So we have the recovery committee, we have the RX committee, we have alcohol initiatives, we have substance exposed newborn committee. So we have all kinds of different community partners working together to reduce countywide risk in all different facets. And we have a conference coming up soon.
Do tell.
All right, so we have a conference every year, and this year our keynote speaker is actually Austin Eubanks, and Austin is a Columbine survivor. So it's actually
Holy cow.
He has an amazing story. He was in active addiction himself for several years after the Columbine shooting, and he's really able to speak to addiction and speak to some of the school violence things that we have going on and suicide prevention, and it should be a powerful time.
Well, that is. And when is the conference?
It is May 14th, and registration is now open. You can register by going to pascoasap.com, and I do want to say that we do have scholarships available for people in recovery. So it's $30 to go to the conference, and that just basically covers our costs.
Right.
But if someone, in the recovery community can't afford that, or, if you want to come and, you just basically can't afford it, we offer scholarships.
And we can, there's ways of raising money for folks like that. So if there's anything, certainly the Godlogic Project or Building 12, Next Level Church's recovery, faith-based recovery program, if there's anything we can do to help facilitate that, we'd, of course, be glad to do it. That's what we do.
Amazing.
Especially
Well,
where
we're
we are.
still accepting applications for vendors too, and we actually have a couple faith-based breakout sessions on education and kind of bridging the spiritual community with the mental health community, because that's an exceptionally important topic to cover. So if you guys would be interested in just coming and having a vendor table, you're welcome to do that too.
Yeah, and that's something that, as far as the Godlogic Project is concerned, recovery isn't the theme of this podcast, but it's a big part. It's going to be obviously a big part of the podcast because it's a big part of my story and my ministry as a pastor. I would like to be part of that if I can. I'm also a single mother, Kelly, so I have to find a babysitter.
Well, maybe we can pool together our resources. We got that issue going on over here too.
There's times in my life, if I'm going to be honest, there's times in my life where I feel like I'm not cut out to be a single mother. Believe that? I just think sometimes I don't have the hips for it.
I don't know. I see your posts, and I think you're a great single mom, Kevin.
So anyway, so we're gonna when we upload this to Facebook, to YouTube, finally, we are going to. I'll plug those links. If you guys can get me the links for that, I'll put them in the comments section so people can easily find out about that. Anytime you feel free to tag Kevin Haggerty in any of those posts on Facebook. I use my Facebook I do advertise essentially for my friends and ministries on Facebook. So if you see, by the way, me recommend a ministry or a program or even a business person, it's because I know them personally. I don't share every one I see, but if I trust these people and love them and have worked with them before, they'll be on my Facebook, and you guys certainly can take advantage of that always. That's just an open door. I do that all the time.
Thank you.
So what else? So we got May 14th. There's still room for vendors, so we can get either secular or faith-based vendors in there.
Yes, absolutely.
The idea being we need to, collect throughout the year, I'm guessing, the resources that the community is looking for, and then once a year maybe assemble the people that can provide those types of resources. Is that the plan?
Yep, that's what we do, and that's what our conference yearly is all about. It's been about a year and a half since we've had one. We had a little bit of a tumultuous one last time because we were coming off the cusp of Hurricane Irma. So I think we all need a little bit of a break, but we're coming back together. And like I said, it's May 14th. You can go to pascoasf.com to register. It's at Saddlebrook Resort in Wesley Chapel. It's an all-day thing from 8:30 to 5. So, yeah.
Well, if I knew how to, I can put a link on the godlogicproject.com I just have to. I'm also the IT guy for this project, so the
Yeah,
website
maybe we
doesn't.
can pull together resources for that too.
The website doesn't always work that well, but I can get that on there, so people can link quickly through to that and any other thing you guys have on there. And I told Cesar and Rachel that if you guys want to, put up I need to decorate the studio, so if you want to put up a ASAP or a Recovery Epicenter logo on the wall, just get that over to me. I'll put it up. I don't mind.
I'd love to do that.
The more,
And also, I just want to say, if anybody wants to get involved in any of our committees too, that's the place to do it. So there's a link for each one of our committees with a little bit more information about what each one of them does and when we meet. So yeah, same thing, pathways.com.
okay, we'll make sure that information gets out. Now, I've got a question for you, Kelly.
Sure.
And this is, you may be a little bit biased, but now you've got a camera angle with both Cesar and I on TV at the same time.
Uh-oh.
And most of the community knows we're just about the same age.
Yep,
You might be a
same
little
age.
bit older. So, Kelly,
Oh, I'm not doing this.
in
I'm
your
really
honest
not doing
opinion,
this.
who's better looking, me or Cesar?
Definitely.
And
Kelly.
be honest.
You're talking about my husband here, man. You both are
So,
very good-looking
This
gentlemen.
this is an honest program, first of all.
How's the
Kevin,
lighting?
you have a bit of a Howard Stern-esque going on in this podcast. I got to tell you that too.
Well,
But I'm sorry. I got to give it to my husband on this one. He's my husband.
Thank
you can't
you.
do that
Well,
to me.
when Cesar walked into the studio, and we got, as you guys can see, we got a huge studio audience here. When Cesar walked into the studio, this is what we got. Yeah,
Oh my.
the ladies went crazy, and then when I walked in, we got this. Yeah. So
Oh, that's not true.
that
Cesar
was.
changed his shirt, too. We had a tighter shirt on earlier that may have been a little bit more.
Yeah, well, I had to have him put a shirt on, Kelly. First thing he did when we walked in the studio is we doing this shirt on, shirt off. How do you want to do this?
I was confused. I thought it was a different show.
I had to I had to remind him I'm a pastor, you know.
All
Well,
right. On that note, I'm on a work call, so I need to keep it PC here before I get myself in trouble.
yeah, and I'm constantly having to be PC, which is not my strength. I don't know if you knew that about
Yeah,
me.
mine neither.
Well, God bless you, and thank you for calling in. Thank you for being part of the Godlogic project. Of course, always, if we can do anything for you guys, that's what I do this for. So if you guys ever need anything, you can email me at godlogicproject@gmail.com, and if I can help, I certainly will.
Awesome. We'll be in touch. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Kelly.
Say
Bye,
goodbye to Kelly.
We love you, Kelly.
Bye.
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 So now that
All
I've
right.
monopolized most of this conversation, I feel like we should get more from Rachel.
So,
'Cause I'm a blabbermouth.
so we're going to Rachel. Rachel,
I'm
what do you have to
usually the
contribute?
blabbermouth. Lots of exciting stuff coming up. We are building a symposium, and it will happen September 28th. We have symposium planning every month, and as it gets closer to the event, it'll be every 2 weeks. Our next symposium planning, anybody in the community is invited, is April 18th at
Can you
11
tell us what a
o'clock.
symposium is?
A symposium is a big event about recovery. We're going to have a panel about multiple pathways and different partners in the community that deal with issues in recovery, like somebody from law enforcement, probably somebody from Baycare, faith-based initiatives. And we all come together and we do cafe conversations and talk about what people really feel that our community would benefit from. And we serve food because in recovery events, there's always food
And coffee.
and lots of coffee. We're going to have really good coffee too. So it's a free event. It'll be on Saturday.
Well, I happen to be a very big fan of coffee. I don't know if you knew that about me, but people generally in the recovery community, I think if we all went out, then the coffee industry would probably collapse.
Absolutely.
Where does
I
coffee
believe
come
that.
from? Ecuador or somewhere?
All over.
So it would probably crush the Ecuadorian economy if we all went back out. So we are going to. We have 15 minutes left, so certainly I want to cover as much as we can in that 15 minutes.
Okay, well, our next symposium planning is April 18th. Like I said, it's at Trinity Church of Christ, which is over behind Pit Boss. They have been very accommodating. They want to help with the recovery community to allow us to use their building, and it's a central location. So we want to thank them for their participation and help, as well as Next Level Church. What else have we got going on? We have with ASAP, because I said, let me back up. I'm the RCO director for Recovery Epicenter. I work with ASAP, and I sit on all 4 committees: the Substance Exposed Newborn, Recovery Committee, Alcohol Initiatives Committee. What's the fourth one?
I don't know, but you're an overachiever.
Yes.
The RX Committee at North Bay Hospital.
Did you run all this by your sponsor before you took all these commitments?
Yes.
You didn't, did you?
Oh, no, I did.
You just jumped right on it, didn't you?
Her sponsor knows.
My sponsor's usually sitting there with me, so.
Okay. So you would say then your sponsor is trying to control you. All right. Let me ask you this: 12-step programs, are they a cult?
I don't believe so.
Do they
No.
just brainwash people? Come on, tell the truth. Nobody's watching.
Now-
We're off the air now, so you can tell me the
I
truth.
heard a really good line from somebody that said, he said to his sponsor, "You're trying to brainwash me." And his sponsor said, "Don't you think your brain needs a little washing?"
Yeah, probably a good washing. Maybe a little bleach.
Yeah, exactly.
When I first got here, it wouldn't have been a bad idea. So we got Recovery Epicenter. We got the symposiums lining up. We got the annual conference for ASAP coming up.
The new meeting that's
Yes,
planning.
part of what Recovery Epicenter does and what an RCO does is develops and help promote multiple pathways of recovery. And let me explain a little bit about that. Being a pastor, you can totally appreciate if you walk into a room with a bunch of people, every person in that room has a different pathway to meeting God.
Right.
And once they meet God, their journey with God looks differently. Nobody's the same. Well, recovery kind of works like that too. 12-step recovery works for me, but I am very open to the fact that that's not everybody's pathway and everybody deserves recovery, whatever that looks like to them. So we're really excited that the first West Pasco meeting of Refuge Recovery will be May 4th at 6 p.m. at Oasis Coffee Shop. So
Interesting.
it's never been in West Pasco, so it's another.
And that's out on
Opportunity.
54. Where is that?
That's it, Oasis Coffee Shop. You know where they
on Little Road.
I don't get
Embassy.
out much.
It's on
You've
Little
been there.
Road
I've
at the
run
same
into you
place.
there. Embassy and Little.
Okay.
Yes.
So Embassy and Little Road. Yeah. So I used to live up that way, so I know where that is.
Okay. We
Oh.
also have, with the Substance Exposed Newborn Committee, they're having a resource fair in Dade City at Pasco Hernando College. I don't know how, but yeah, Pasco Hernando.
This is outside of my knowledge.
Yes.
On April 17th at 10 o'clock, and there'll be a lot of different vendors there to come talk about different resources for recovery. This is sponsored by ASAP. Everybody is more than welcome to come join that as well.
Well, we have here. Let me put myself on the camera. I am the host, and I'm also the audio video guy, and I'm also the IT guy. So it's pretty lumpy. It's pretty crunchy the way I do things, but we get it done. I wanted to plug what Next Level Church here on Darlington Road in Holiday, Florida does, and that we have on Tuesday night at doors open at 6 for the Building 12 recovery process. It's a principle-based, faith-based recovery ministry. It's a Christian ministry. But we run through the 12 principles of recovery, one a week. Every Tuesday night, the meeting starts at 6:30, runs about an hour, and then we have fellowship, coffee and fellowship before and after. So I want to encourage you guys. In the case of Building 12, it doesn't matter if it's drugs or alcohol or codependency, approval addiction, low self-esteem, whatever debilitating obsession or compulsive behavior that is wreaking havoc or keeps knocking you off track in your life. We will address it with those 12 principles. The 12 principles, of course, are based on the original 12 principles of the 12 steps. So it's not far from the general recovery meeting, but it's a spiritual or emotional recovery that is an addendum to, I think, sound. If you're chemically addicted, it's addendum to sound 12-step meeting schedule and sponsorship and stuff like that. And then we have, we're going to wrap it up here. We have the most important question of the week. We've covered a lot of important information, but there is one thing that I need to know from each of my guests, and you'll each get a chance to answer. Bigfoot, real or fake?
Real, absolutely.
Bigfoot, real. Rachel says real. Cesar is not convinced.
I didn't say I wasn't convinced. I just think he's the hide and seek champion of the world.
If there is a Bigfoot, why have we not seen him yet? I guess would be your argument. Is that true? Why have we not captured a Bigfoot? Now happens to be above your head. I don't know if you can see that in the studio there. There is a Bigfoot right above Caesar's head. That is not, by the way, a real Bigfoot. so that it's still not proof, even though it's standing right there above you, blocking the Sling Studio. My son and I, my 10-year-old son and I, are the founding members of the Bigfoot Research Association. We founded this when he was like 4 or 5, and he used to be fond of saying AKA bra. So it was the one time he was allowed to say bra when he was 5 years old. But we have, live on the screen right now, actual footage from Hillsborough River, from a swamp at Lettuce Lake in Hillsborough County, Bigfoot. Now, if you look down the middle of the screen, you will see, right down the middle there, wait for it, there is a Bigfoot right down the middle of the screen. Well, a little off to the right. Not a very good camera job. But that is an actual Bigfoot in the Hillsborough River right here in Tampa Bay. What they call in Florida a swamp ape.
The swamp ape, yes.
So it's not a Sasquatch or a Yeti or a Bigfoot, although they're all the same thing.
So is the Yeti like a cousin of it?
Yeti is would be like in the Himalayas or something.
Yeah,
and
distant
he's
cousin.
snow-colored.
Nice
Yeah,
white fur.
yeah. So he's probably a little shaggier, white. So he has camouflage, right? This one is probably swamp-colored.
Swamp color.
So whatever color you would find in a swamp, you're probably going to find in a swamp ape. And this is actual live footage of a Bigfoot. I think it's indisputable, irrefutable evidence that there is a Bigfoot in Tampa Bay. And the reason I put it up there is because I've added a new monitor to the studio, and I wanted to give you guys the opportunity mostly to use. I wanted to try my new monitor.
You know,
basically.
I believe that all Bigfoots emit some kind of a signal that makes every camera go just a little bit blurry.
They could be
when you
part
capture
alien or something. So if we all have an alien implant in us, and then the Bigfoot is able to block the camera signal.
It's like an EMP.
Rachel, you find that almost unbelievable. I can tell by the look on your
She's
face.
shocked.
You think that maybe Rev Kev's a little crazy, don't you?
I think she's
I
shocked
never
at how
said
much we
anything
think
like
about it.
I think that there's enough serious stuff to think about in life. So once in a while, thinking about Bigfoot.
We are not
Kinda
a glum
fun.
lot.
No, we are not a glum lot. All right, we got outro music. Anybody have anything to say? Anybody
do.
say hello? Do you want to give some shout outs to the community that you don't use last names? Don't blow their anonymity.
No, I was just going to ask everyone to like our Facebook page, Recovery Epicenter. We have a few things coming up that we're working on, some scholarship beds for transitional living, some Narcan giveaways and trainings. So please log on and like it so you can follow us and keep up on what's going on with the RCO as well as other recovery events.
I just want to thank you for having us on. We fully support the Godlogic project.
Woo!
We fully support you, and thank you everybody for tuning in and listening to us, and thank you for this platform, sir.
Well, thank you guys for
awesome.
being here. This is our first official. Hold on. This is our first official live Godlogic project, which is cool. We didn't get the opportunity because I was the one telling the jokes. We didn't hear a lot of that.
Do you have a wah one?
I had one, and I got rid of it to put this in. So this is what I usually get when I tell a joke. On that note, by the way, to like, share, and comment on social media shows interaction, which then raises the amount of times people will see it. So it's important that when you guys see Recovery Epicenter stuff on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, that you like, comment, and share it. It's not the same as tagging. Tagging is good, but not as effective. That goes for the Godlogic project as well. But if we're going to raise awareness in 2019, we're going to do it via social media, like it or not. I'm on Instagram and Twitter now with the Godlogic project. Never was before because I find them annoying. I always use Facebook mostly to sell bathroom remodels and motorcycles.
Because we're old people, and that's what we're familiar with.
Yes. So I had, what was the one before Facebook? MySpace. I had a MySpace. I had my kids make me a MySpace years ago. I guess it's still out there. I better check what's on there because I wasn't a pastor back then.
Yeah, you might want to check the comments.
Getting knocked off of Facebook or YouTube. Email me anytime with any questions you have about recovery, theology, anything you'd like to talk about, guys. If you've got a story that you'd like to tell, want to be a guest on the podcast, email me, godlogicproject@gmail.com. Love to have you in here. And I will ask you, be prepared for a Bigfoot question. So that's all. The only warning I would give you is that we may very well ask you about Bigfoot. Anything else, guys? You want to say goodbye? Let's do this.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for supporting the Godlogic project. And if no one's told you they love you today, God loves you. So do I. Receive that. Be blessed. We'll speak soon. This has been a RevKev production. Your mileage may vary.
Shut up, Kevin.
All right. We're supposed to be going unlive, except the Sling Studio has seized up here. We did end up getting knocked off.